Hello and welcome to AJ Storytime channel for kids. If you are new to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe and hit the little bell so you receive the notifications of when I'm reading live or I just posted a new video. Today's Storytime theme is called Friendship. The first book we are reading is called Two by Catherine Otosh. Two. Two was playful number. She was curved on the top, straight on the bottom, and friendly and warm like the sun. Her best friend was one. Whenever they get the chance, they'll dance. She sing and snap. He tappily tap. What a pair they made. At the end of each day, they'll always say, 1, 2, I'll count you. Till the end, we'll be best friend. Until 3 jump in between them. You two are like glue, say 3. Poking fun, shake things up, come play with me. 1, odds are better than the rest, but 1 and 3 are best. 2 felt a shy. She watched 1 slowly drift away from her. 2 felt left out. Can I play too? She asked. You have your time to play with 1, answered 3. We are playing ops only right now. 2 was blue. What did I do? 1 left without a word. It is because I'm even and they are both odd. Let it go, said 0. Just ignore them, added 4. But 2 couldn't let go. At every turn, what did she see? 1 playing with 3. 1, 3 odd will be, they say. 2 felt a little green. Her heart felt stick, and she began to crack. The Evans rushed over to comfort their friend. Such a shame things aren't the same. 3 is silly, say 4. 1 cannot be best friend with 3. It's unlucky, say 6. 1 and 3 are just playing up. Let's get even with those offs, exclaimed 8. 5, 7, and 9 overheard the chatter. What's the matter? There is nothing wrong with being odd. Evens are great, stated 4, 6, and 8, sometimes even greater than 8 ops. 0 saw the numbers collide. Why did everyone need to take sides? 5, 7, 9. We're all up. We are just fine, shouted the odds. 4, 6, 8, being even is first rate. Yellow evens. 0 watched this hula loo. She raced over to 2. The numbers are dividing. Now the odds are odds with the evens, and the evens want to get even with the odds. 2 fell split. But what can I do? She asked. Half of me doesn't care about that odd pair. Maybe it's time for me to be done with 1. That's the smaller side of you talking, says 0. You are greater than that. The evens and odds are in a fight. What if you can make things right? Can you find it in your heart to see a new angle to this possibly? Tall. 2 thought, and then, you're right, she exclaimed, flipping herself around. Is it in me? I can be less than I have been, or greater than I am. The choice is mine. 2 pulled herself together and stood up tall. I have something to say to you all, she said. It's not easy to say, but I have come to see. It is strictly to dance when there are three. Once you have other friends, and the same goes for me. Three droop. I'm sorry too, he say. I see now that playing the Alps wasn't fair to you. Well, here is where we can all agree, say two. When the dance turns and shifts, let's groove and flow. If you are holding too tight, let go. Dance to your own beat, do your own thing. Be free to explore what a new day can bring. Explore cheer four, dance and mix and say six, and rock and roll, say seven. Shake it up, they shouted. Soon all the numbers were dancing together, moving and grooving, shivering and shaking, and spinning around like tops. It's fun to dance with everyone, say the numbers. Two spun faster and faster, round and round. She got so dizzy that oops, she bumped into one. He teetered and toppled and almost fell down, but two caught him. Sorry, say two. Me too, say one. Both say nothing for a while. Then one says softly, Hey, two, can I still count on you? Two look at one and say, It's the end, and guess what? We are still friends. The end. Wow, such a nice story about friendship, right, guys? I have one more book for you, and this is our last. This one is called Imaginary Friend. This is by Eoin Colfer and Oliver Jeffers. Headaches are a pain. A bee sting hurts even more. But there is one thing that's worse than getting stung on the head by a bee on a rainy day, and that is loneliness. Being alone is not fun. The first 5 minutes are okay, but it's downhill from there, and if you are alone, you are alone. It's not as if you can wish a friend to life. Usually this is true. You can wish and wish until your hair stands to end, but no imaginary friend will appear unless the conditions are just right, and if you add a little electricity or luck or even magic, then an imaginary friend might appear just when you need one. An imaginary friend like Fred. Fred floated like a feather in the wind until a lonely little child wished for him. Fred was always happy to be summoned, and he tried really hard to be the best imaginary friend he could be. He dressed up, dressed down, played ball, became a ball, and did whatever else his real friends wanted to do without once complaining. But no matter how hard Fred tried, the same thing happened every time. One day, his friend would find a real friend in the real world, a friend who did not have to be ignored when grown-ups were around. When this day came, as it always did, Fred would feel himself fade. Usually, by lunchtime on the second day, Fred would be mostly invisible, and by bedtime on the fourth day, there would barely be a scrap of Fred left, just enough for the wind to catch and whisk him into the sky, where Fred would stay until someone new wishes for him. Fred was glad that his friends found other real friends to play with, but sometimes he wished he had a friend who would need him forever. He dreamed of a friend who likes reading music and drama like him. He imagined them sitting together, reading adventure stories and looking for shapes in the cloud. This was Fred's dream. And one day, a lonely boy called Sam wished hard for a friend when the conditions were perfect. Fred appeared and soon realized that Sam was the friend he had been dreaming of. Fred never had so much fun, Sam loved to read just like Fred and was most upset if he didn't get enough, at least one book per day. When they weren't reading, Sam and Fred would try to understand how the toilet worked. They listened to music on Sam's dad's sound system, which have 13 speakers. Or they would write plays and act them out for Sam's parents. But even though every morning brought new delights, Fred couldn't help thinking that every evening brought them closer to the day when Sam wouldn't need him anymore. And that would be the saddest day of his imaginary life. So Fred decided that he would enjoy every single moment with Sam until that time came. The two friends pretended to be French and story mime. They made Japanese masks, practiced their classical instrument, and planned their own comic book. They called themselves the Dramatic Duo. But one day, Sam came home late from a party, and Fred felt a nervous flutter in his imaginary tummy. Was this the beginning of the end? Was he headed back into the sky? Fred checked his arm and thought that maybe he had faded a little already. When Sam came home, he had an excited look in his eyes, a look Fred had seen before. I made a new friend, Sam told him. She's a girl called Sammy, which is funny because I'm called Sam. She loves to read and has written and illustration her own comic book series. You are going to love her, Fred. Fred thought he probably would love Sammy if he were able to stay around long enough to meet her. But don't worry, Sam said. Just because I met Sammy doesn't mean I don't need you. You are still my main man. In Fred's experience, there was only room in a heart for one best friend. I will always be your friend, Fred said. Just promise that you won't forget me. I promise, said Sam. He meant it. The next morning, Sam was gone when Fred woke up and there was a note on his pillow. I am meeting Sammy to brainstorm our comic book back later. You'll see, Sam. Comic book? Thought Fred. That was our idea, me and Sam. Fred checked his arm again, definitely fading this time. When Sam came home several hours later, Fred called an emergency meeting of the dramatic duo. Okay, son, he said, I want to prepare you for what's coming. In a day or two, I will disappear. It's not your fault. It's just that now that you have a real friend, you don't need me anymore. The best thing you can do is let me go without making a scene. Sam did make a scene. He swore he would never let Fred go, but the next day, Sam left the house early again to meet with Sammy, and Fred was left behind. I can see through my ham now, thought Fred. When Sam returned home later that day, he brought Sammy with him. Sammy wore round glasses that made her eyes seem huge. She pulled a shallow case behind her on a cart and carried an art bag so she could work on her comic book whenever an idea struck. Sam introduced them. Sammy meet Fred. Fred meets Sammy. This is a waste of time, thought Fred. Only people with imaginary friends can see an imaginary friend. But Sammy stuck her hand out in exactly the right direction and said, Pleased to meet you, Fred. Fred was surprised. He had never been invisible to two people before. He shook Sammy's hand. I know you worry I don't need you anymore, said Sam, but you are wrong. I need you more than ever. Why? Asked Fred. Why do you need me now? You got Sammy. Two reasons, said Sam. First, I never want to let you go. Fred thought he would cry, and that was only the reason number one. And reason number two, he asked, tell him, said Sammy. Elbowing Sam the way friends do. Okay, said Sam. Reason number two is that we need you to be in our quarter. Fred was confused. Quarter means four, he said. There are only three of us. Uh-huh, said Sam. Like a great detective. That's where you're wrong. Yes, said Sammy, clapping her hands. You are wrong because there are four of us. Sammy stepped to one side, and Fred saw a small girl with a violin case and a smile that made him want to smile too. This is Frida, says Sammy. Hi, friend, says Frida. Wave your hand. Sam told us all about you. I hope we can be friends. Sammy has an imaginary friend. Fred realized, and as he waved back, he noticed that his hand seemed absolutely solid, not seen through at all. Frida set her violin case on the floor and opened it. We need to practice, she said, or we'll never get to Carnegie Hall. Sammy rolled her eyes. Frida is so strict, she said to Fred, but you'll get used to it in a couple of years. Fred did get used to it. He quietly enjoyed being told what to do by Frida with her dazzling smile. The four friends spent all their spare time together having violin battles, reading comic books, practicing plumbing, pretending to be French, and arguing over what they would call their quarter. They eventually settled on the Quarterly Quarter, which they all agree was the perfect name. The quarter made their debut at the school Christmas concert, much to the confusion of the audience. But then something interesting happened. The older they grew, the less time the four friends spent together. Sam and Sammy, it seems, preferred graphic novels to music, and they left the quarter to concentrate on their comic book series. Carnegie Hall was eventually played, not as a quarter, however, but as a duo. Again, much to the confusion of the audience. And this, dear friends, is the interesting thing that happened. Even though they didn't see their human friends much anymore, Fred and Frida did not begin to fade, nor get swept back up into the sky like they had so many times before. Instead, they stuck around being imaginary friends to each other. They became quite famous in the imaginary community, and a statue was commissioned to be erected in the sky above their imaginary house. And this was the first case of its kind. Imaginary scientists spent years trying to figure out how it had happened. Eventually, they concluded that friendship is friendship, imaginary or not, the same laws apply. The end. The statue should have disappeared every time a gust of wind came along, but it never did. Wow, this is such a nice book. Do you have an imaginary friend? Remember, the storytime theme for today was called Friendship. The first book we read was Two, and the next was Imaginary Friend. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Bye.